Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fully Charged News Show. Now, before I start, I just want to explain a really basic thing, really quickly. At the end of all our shows, we always ask people to subscribe to Fully Charged on YouTube. Now, the reason we do this is because the number of subscribers we have makes a very big difference to us. That requires minimal input or commitment from you, our wonderful audience. If we can pass the heady heights of 1 million subscribers, which we're heading to, but it's taking time, the way YouTube promotes our shows changes. We get exposed to a wider audience and more people might start watching the Fully Charged show. We get our message to a broader audience. So if you've already subscribed, thank you. You don't have to do anything. We really appreciate it. If you haven't, please seriously consider it. It's free. You don't have to do anything else. Just click the subscribe. You don't have to watch if you don't want to. You can turn off notifications if you want to, because they are annoying. And you can tell us to sling our hook if you want to, but just subscribe. Your subscription really helps this show continue and grow. Okay, end of pleading waffle. Now, the next issue. Yeah, it's a bit of an issue, this. Now, I feel it incumbent upon me to deal with a couple of minor disputes we've had recently on the wider channel. Now, a very small minority of people got very upset at a blog we published on our website at fullycharged.show. And if you haven't been there, go and have a look. It's absolutely brilliant. There's loads of stuff there. Now, this particular blog was written by a respected German automotive journalist called Alex Voigt. I've spoken to Alex at length and we're going to have him on the podcast soon because he's a very interesting man who is, without question, very critical of the German auto industry and their slow transition to electric vehicle manufacturing. And he is very, very supportive of Tesla. Now, this really upsets some people who really hate Tesla and love German car companies. Why not? It's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. We also released a podcast where Helen Chesky talked to a man called Jack Stilgo, the Associate Professor in Science and Technology Studies at University College in London. And they discussed the future of autonomous cars. And he was at times very critical of Tesla and other big tech companies, and this really, really upset some people, so much so that a couple of people have made videos to counter the arguments. And what is amusing in particular with the one about from the podcast with Helen Chesky on YouTube, that gets about between 15 and 20,000 listens on our audio channels, but on YouTube it got about 5,000 or 6,000, I can't remember, but the riposte got 15,000. So that's always the way to do it. I should just start doing that. I should watch other people's videos, then be very critical of them, and we get more views. Anyway, that's the thing. So they made some counter arguments, which I think is fantastic, and I totally defend our right to include controversial voices in our output. We're not going to suddenly give a platform to someone advocating fracking or the societal benefits of burning coal, but the complexities of arguments around government intervention in tech development. You know, should we have governments? One of those videos was arguing we shouldn't have government. Governments just invent nuclear weapons and they're just totally bad, which I'm going to say here and now is a little bit Trumpy. Anyway, the staggering power of global corporations and their impact on our lives. They do have them. This all needs to be analysed, discussed and understood. Fully autonomous vehicles, really contentious argument. Is it a good idea? Is it something that's going to help us? Does it mean we'll have less cars on the road? As all those things need to be debated. Are you going to own a fully autonomous vehicle? No, you're not. Of course you're not. Anyway, of course, we need to be balanced, but the fact that we've upset Tesla worshippers and Tesla haters in the same week is possibly a sign that we're on the right track. Okay. Now, some actual news. Here's something you don't hear about, and it does mention Tesla. All right, but also Renault. This is really important. The latest figures from Schmidt Automotive Research indicate that the Renault Zoe outsold the Model 3, the Tesla Model 3, in Europe in 2020. I've got to do one. What the what? I mean, sales of the Renault Zoe, a small car, hit 97,158 sales in 2020, putting it above the Tesla Model 3, which sold 86,910. I've just got to do a little aside here. 5 years ago, those figures would have been unimaginable in a year. That's a staggering level of sales in 1 year of electric vehicles. You've got to remember, there was a time not that long ago where if a car sold 4,000 models in a year, that was deemed good. 97,000 plus new Renault Zoes on the roads in Europe. Anyway, but aside from that, electric car sales in Western Europe doubled to 727,927 in 2020. The Volkswagen ID.3 with sales of 55,003. Don't forget those three, that's very important, was a remarkable performance. Given the sales of that car only started in September, it sold 55,000 already. I expect we will see massive numbers for the ID.3 this year. Now, contrary to all that positive news, if you want to buy an electric car, it's likely it's going to take a bit longer for a while yet. There is a global shortage of semi-conductors. The computer chips that all cars rely on, no matter what powers them. This doesn't just affect electric cars, it affects everything, every type of car. Some people are blaming the massive demand for Xbox and PlayStations. From what I understand, when the pandemic hit, automakers panicked a bit and slashed orders for chips. They said, we don't want to buy them. No one's going to buy any cars for the next year. They were expecting huge plunges in sales. And meanwhile, sales of home electronics hit record high. So semiconductor makers shifted their production lines to meet the surging orders for chips used in products like laptop computers, webcams, tablets, and smartphones. Now it's become apparent that the demand for electric cars is enormous. Although sales are generally down, for cars in general, catastrophically for diesel. Virtually no car maker has been spared, no matter what sort of cars they make. The sales are basically down. Toyota Motors has shut down production lines in China. Fiat Chrysler Automobiles temporarily stopped production at plants in Ontario and Mexico. Volkswagen has warned of production problems at factories in China, Europe and the United States. Ford Motor Company said last week that it was idling a Louisville, Kentucky factory for a week because of the shortage of chips. Now, new cars have more than 100 semiconductors built into them. Who knew? The lack of even a single component can trigger production delays or shutdowns. Now, as I've said, this isn't specific to electric cars, absolutely not. And none of this is due to material shortage. It's just the turmoil caused by the pandemic, particularly the relationship between China and the USA under Trumpy. That really hasn't helped. And the fact that it takes the production lines a while to shift from game console chips to car chips. Now, talking of the USA, the Biden administration is already making fairly big changes. So the federal government owns around 645,000 vehicles in total, and the Biden administration have just said that those cars are all going to be electric by the end of this presidential term. So more than 225,000 of those belong to the US Postal Service. More than 170,000 of those are being used by military agencies. Now, President Biden stated that the vehicles would have to be made in America, but this is an incredibly important thing, and this has been proven many times in history in the past. That if a government makes that kind of commitment to a new technology, that technology is automatically massively boosted, not just by the government, in fact, very little by the government, but by other companies. So if every delivery company in America suddenly sees that all the vehicles used by the American Postal Service are electric, they're all going to be electric. We know that companies like Amazon are buying hundreds of thousands of electric vehicles. It's a really important step change for what's going on in America, that they really will. We're going to see massive change there. They really will ramp up their electric vehicle manufacturing process. And it's kind of about time, let's all be honest. It's a little bit slow and a little bit late. And here's another bit of news from the United States about the old technology. It seems a company called Toyota have been a little bit sloppy with the old tailpipe emissions. Or maybe, I'm not saying, but maybe it's possible, a little bit naughty. No, this isn't about the absurd and offensive garbage that is the self-charging hybrid fantasy. No, forget that. That's dead. From around 2005 to 2015, Toyota systematically failed to report defects in its technology that was meant to control tailpipe emissions. #orcs, as the old people say. Toyota managers and staff in Japan apparently knew about the practice, but failed to stop it. The automaker quite likely sold millions of vehicles with these defects, the US Attorney's Office said. Toyota has shut its eyes to the non-compliant, said Audrey Strauss, the acting US Attorney. And here's the real kicker. Toyota has agreed not to contest the fine, i.e. they're going to pay it, i.e. they are pleading guilty, along with dozens of other combustion engine manufacturers who are either lying, cheating, or essentially not giving a stuff about all these damn fussy government regulations. Now, it's important to remember that Toyota built the Prius, and everybody, and Jeremy Clarkson included, slagged off this car when it came out. They said it was rubbish, that it didn't work. And now Toyota have sold over 15 million of them around the world. They do work. They are brilliant machines. They're just a bit dated. However, Toyota also supported the Trump administration's rollback of emission standards, which in turn allowed Toyota to really churn out massive, heavy, expensive, gas-guzzling monster SUVs and pickup trucks by the hundreds of thousands and make a lot of money doing it. And according to a recent report from the Environmental Protection Agency, which again has just become, an actual environmental protection agency as opposed to an agency that facilitates drilling for oil in national parks and areas of outstanding natural beauty and delicate environments. Yeah, so it's now doing the other. It's actually protecting the environment. Weird that, considering the name. According to the EPA, Toyota vehicles delivered some of the worst fuel efficiency in the industry, leading to an overall worsening of mileage and pollution from passenger cars and trucks in the United States for the first time in 5 years. So yes, we're really looking forward to the rollout of fully electric vehicles from Toyota. I hope the American government buys some, as long as they're made in America. They really need to wind in their fossil necks and start making fantastic electric cars, which they would be supremely capable of doing. And I don't think that's impossible. They might actually do it, but they are way, way behind the pack. And here's another reason for them to step up. One company is now so far in the lead when it comes to electric transport, it's increasingly hard for the rest of the pack to get anywhere near them. Tesla, we're back with them, have just released a refresh for the Model S and the Model X. They also released sales and production figures, and I think it's fair to say they are the only car company on earth seeing massive increases in both. But more on that in a moment. Okay, so the Model S and the Model X are very high-end, expensive cars. No argument about that, but in reference to my opening comments about people who hate Tesla and people who literally worship Elon Musk, there's a very wide middle ground that accepts that this remarkable company is leaps and bounds ahead of the competition when it comes to drivetrains, energy efficiency, and constantly improving software that controls the vehicle. For sensible, normal people who don't know all the inside baseball Tesla jargon, all Teslas come with various driving modes. Now, my long-range Tesla Model 3 has 2 modes, just 2, standard and chill. I mean, chill is basically eco mode in any other car. It's just got a cooler name. It's lower power, lower top speed. It maximises the range, minimises the amount of energy used. And that's what I use for 90% of the time. And it does mean that my Tesla Model 3 actually does have a range very, very close to 300 actual miles on actual roads when it's raining and windy and miserable in the winter. Now, if you get a Tesla Model S Plaid, don't know how to say it, Plaid, whatever Plaid is, Plaid, Americans say plaid, I don't even know, whatever it is, it's a joke, I'll explain in a moment. If it's got Tesla Model S Plaid Plus, that comes with, actually I don't know how many modes, a lot of modes. Now, ludicrous mode allowed the Model S to accelerate from 0 to 60 miles an hour, 100 kph in under 3 seconds, or 2.8. Now, the naming of these modes comes from a 1987 comedy movie called Spaceballs, which was a parody of Star Wars, and one of the spaceships featured in the movie could go to ludicrous speed. And if that wasn't enough, it could then go to plaid or even maximum plaid. I think that's how you say it.
They've gone to plaid.
I can't even remember the joke now, but it was funny at the time. Okay, so the new Model S Plaid Plus can go from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 1.99 seconds and cover the standing quarter mile, which is a drag race, in well under 10 seconds, which for some men is a really, really important statistic. So that's the silly stuff. But here's the more important stuff, and I think the stuff that really sets Tesla at the head of the pack. If you drive the new, updated and refreshed Model S long range, it can travel over 400 miles on a single charge. Now, this information has only just come out, so I don't know yet if that's because of a bigger battery capacity or better use of the energy. I think it's possibly a combination of the two. But for production vehicles available now, even at comparable cost, that is very, very impressive. A genuine, real-world 400-mile range puts the car in that is driving from London to Edinburgh without stopping. End of argument. And Tesla sales are growing very, very fast. This is really more important. Their recent announcement is the sales numbers have been spectacular. The production numbers have jumped since the opening of their Chinese factory, and later this year they will increase further once the Berlin factory starts up. Tesla plan to deliver 1 million cars in 2021. This is a car company that is barely 15 years old, and they are now delivering. So that means they've sold them 1 million cars. It's not necessarily they make 1 million, they're going to deliver 1 million. That's what they're saying. Maybe they won't make it, maybe they will, who knows. The vast majority of those will be Model 3 and Model Y, but still, 1 million cars is 1 million cars. And if they can manage that in the current climate, with every other car maker facing very serious challenges, I mean, that is nothing short of frightening. It really is time for the other manufacturers to genuinely step up and stop faffing about with hybrids, self-charging hybrids, half-baked plug-in hybrids. Stop all that nonsense and start making decent electric cars with decent range without all the flashy trimmings. Basic cars that can go a good distance, 150 to 200 miles. That's really, really important, that are affordable and easy to use. That's all I want to say. I'm going to quickly thank some fabulous, staggeringly beautiful Patreon supporters who keep this channel going more than any other human beings on the planet. And they are Alex House, Chris Scott, Taka Dahl, Ambassador of the Vindoluvian Empire. You kind of need to have watched Red Dwarf to know what that's all about. Island Pony, Daniel Radix, Peter Davis, Guillaume Saigné, Michael Wildeboer, Edmund Skeppy, Anthony Woolhouse, Ariel Gear Skalsveen, Brian Smith, Malcolm McIver, Tio Han Hui, Luke Thomas, Stuart Mackay, Michael Carden, Andy Dickens, Eugene Lambert, and Alan M. Cockrell. Thank you so much for your support. It is hugely appreciated by the whole team here at Fully Charged. I'm not going to talk about subscribing now. Done that at the top. Brilliant. That's all. As always, if you have been, thank you for watching.